Hello, everybody. This is Max Reed coming at you again with another movie review. Today, I'm going to be discussing the film Red Rocket, which was released in 2021. It was released under the studio A24, which is a studio that everybody in the film world is talking about these days. They're kind of known for putting out the most cutting edge and trendy movies. And I think this movie was one of the best ones that they ever did. Now, the reason I want to talk about this movie in particular is to kind of pick up where I left off on my last film review, which was about the movie Triple Frontier. That was a movie that came out in 2019. It was a Netflix original. And if you watch that review I did, one of the big things that I emphasized was that I thought Triple Frontier was one of the best movies to come out in like the last 5 or 6 years. The last 5 or 6 years have been kind of dull. There hasn't been too many movies, in my opinion, that I thought were really special. However, Red Rocket, along with Triple Frontier, is one of those films. So before I get into, what this movie is actually about and the reasons that I thought it was special, I thought it would be good to talk about the dude who actually made this movie, the filmmaker, the guy who was the writer and the director, a guy named Sean Baker, who has made a lot of really good films that are kind of similar to Red Rocket. What he is known for is all of his movies thus far have been movies where the subject matter was about sex workers and the sex industry and the whole world of that. So, he takes a deep dive into that subject matter every movie that he does. I had seen his 2 movies previous to Red Rocket, which the first one was Tangerine, and that was a movie about transsexual women prostitutes in the Los Angeles area and what their life was like. And then the other movie he made was called The Florida Project. Interestingly enough, the main character in that movie was actually an infant child whose mother was a sex worker online and was trying to pay the rent at a motel her and her daughter were staying at that was outside of Disney World. So I don't want to go too much into what those movies were about. I do recommend you go see them. But the one thing I will say is that these 2 previous movies that Sean Baker made were definitely a fantastic lead up to Red Rocket, because Red Rocket, of course, is also about the sex industry, and it is about a sex worker, only it's about a male sex worker, a guy who is a porn star in Los Angeles. His name is Mikey Saber, and he is played by Simon Rex, who is a great comedic actor. He's been around for a long time. I don't think there's anybody else that could have been better to play this specific role. And basically, this character he plays, Mikey Saber, like I said, he's been an adult film star in Los Angeles for the last 10 or 15 years, and he's not the brightest guy in the world, and he makes a lot of bad decisions. So, of course, while he's in Los Angeles, he runs out of money, he runs out of resources, he runs out of pretty much everything, and he has no choice but to return to his hometown, which is a small town in Texas outside of Houston. And when he arrives there, he's flat on his ass. He doesn't have a dollar to his name. The only person he can ask for help is an ex-wife of his who he hasn't really been in touch with, I believe, the last few years. And so basically he unexpectedly comes knocking at her door and begs her to let him stay with her. And she finally agrees, as long as, he helps around the house and helps with the rent. So before I go any further about the plot and the other things that happen and the reason I thought this movie was so special, I thought it was good to address the importance, in a way, of what this movie is about. It is about, the porn industry. It is about sex workers, and it is about that world. And, some people, they might hear, what I've told them about the movie so far and just be turned off by the movie. They might be like, I don't want to see a movie about people involved in the porn industry. I don't want to see a movie about sex workers. I don't want to see, why are they important? You know what I mean? And I think, that's something really important to look at, because it's a double standard in our society. I mean, let's be honest. Pornography is a billion-dollar business, and it's it's a very normal thing to watch. Pretty much everybody watches it, but it's not a very normal thing to participate in. And I think a lot of us, as, quote unquote, good standing members of society, or whatever you'd like to call it, we tend to look down on people who are in the sex industry, whether it's strippers, people in porn, prostitutes, as being less than us, and we look at them like, oh, we would never get involved in that. But then again, it's total hypocrisy, because we definitely consume it and we definitely purchase the products that they make. And, one thing I'm going to talk about throughout this whole entire review is, of course, the movie Boogie Nights. That movie was in my head the whole time I was watching this. And of course, anybody that knows me, when I'm watching a movie, I compare it to other movies that are about the same thing. And Boogie Nights is a classic. There's no denying that. Pretty much everybody in the movie world loves that movie. And I think what Boogie Nights accomplished is, even though it was a movie about, people in the 70s that were in the pornography business, Boogie Nights had a lot to say about the human condition. and not just about the human condition, but the world as a whole. And I really do think that this movie accomplishes the same thing that Boogie Nights did, but just in a very different type of way. It did it in its own way. It was a very original way, and that's why, I thought it was such a great movie. Now, as far as the category or the genre that I would give to this movie, or what category I would put it in, I would say that it's definitely a dark comedy. So it's a very funny movie, but it's very dark humor. It's almost as if the Coen brothers, anybody that knows me knows I love the Coen brothers. I think they're the king of dark comedy. It's almost as if the Coen brothers went out and made an actual dark comedy about the adult film industry. So if you're a fan of the Coen brothers, hopefully that'll be enough if you haven't seen this movie to get excited and give it a watch. Now, to continue on with the plot and some of the most significant parts of the movie, as I said, this character, Mikey Saber, is trying to make his comeback. And one of the most important scenes of the movie that really resonated with me, and this kind of links back to what I was talking about earlier, when he first arrives there in Texas, he does try to get an honest job. And he looks at a lot of restaurants and places that he should be qualified to work, in my opinion. But he doesn't have much work experience on his resume. So when he goes in for these interviews and the restaurant owners start asking him, it gets to a point in the conversation that he has to admit that he was an adult film star for like the last 10 or 15 years. And basically, the owners all kind of have a different opinion on that. But the bottom line is none of them are going to hire him because the sex industry is so vilified. And that kind of made me angry. You know what I mean? It made me angry that, everybody, like, porn is a billion-dollar business. People consume it all the time. It's okay for us to watch it. It's okay for us to consume it as normal citizens. But it's not okay to hire someone that worked in that industry. So it does, again, emphasize the double standard that I was talking about earlier. And unfortunately, he's not able to get an honest job. So what does he end up doing? He ends up selling weed, small amounts of marijuana, and he uses that to get by and save up a little money to get back to Los Angeles. But then a key point in the movie is he meets a girl who he's very attracted to, a 17-year-old girl at a donut shop. And this particular girl, she's very much got the all-American look. She has red hair. She has red freckles. She already has the nickname Strawberry, which of course is going to be her porn name when they go back out to Los Angeles. And basically, Mikey meets this girl Strawberry and thinks this is the key to his comeback, that he's going to go back to Los Angeles with her and pursue get back on where being an adult film star. So basically that's what the movie is. He's trying to get this girl back out to Los Angeles to continue to make movies with him. Now, with that being said, I wanted to kind of take a moment here to talk about Mikey Saber, this main character, and who he really is, because from everything that I've described to you so far about the plot of this movie, you're probably envisioning this crazy guy, makes a lot of bad decisions, deals with a lot of weird people. And that's true. That's what the movie is definitely about. That's why it's such a great movie. That's why it's so funny. But the one thing about Mikey that I really love that makes him a great character is he is an incredibly nice guy. He is nice to every single person he deals with. And to be honest with you, it's kind of the only thing he has going. He screws up on every other aspect of life, but he is so incredibly pleasant and so nice to people that it gets him out of, it's what saves him from really getting in some deep trouble. And that's quite an attribute to have. And I'll be honest, after seeing this movie, I liked Mikey. Despite the fact that he's a troubled guy and he has a lot of problems, he is, no joke, the type of person I would want to be friends with and that I would want to hang out. That's how likable he is, But there does come a key point in the movie where basically his downfall comes from one moment in time where he is really mean to the ex-wife of his that he's moved in with. They're having a conversation, and this is probably the most important scene of the movie, where she starts talking to Mikey about, potentially getting back together, pursuing a long-term life with each other. She does have a child from another relationship. She hints at the idea that maybe he could take on the responsibility of being a father. And, he is living in her house, and he is, back with her. It's not an unreasonable question. But then Mikey does something really out of character, and he just flips on her, and he goes, "Why the fuck are you asking me that? It's not my kid. Where is the father? How is this my problem?" He gives a very out of character answer that's very mean, and she decides to get back at him. I won't give too much away, but it ends up not working out in his favor in the end, when it could have worked out in his favor if he was just a nice guy. So I thought that was a great attribute of who his character was, and really made him interesting. Now, to kind of wrap things up here, like I said, Mikey Saber, he's definitely a lover. He's not a fighter. but he just doesn't have the intellect to pull off his goal in this movie. He isn't able. The movie kind of has an open-ended ending. You're not quite sure what direction that he's going to go, but overall, I still think it was a really terrific film for all the reasons that I listed. It really shows a lot about the human condition, through the world of sex work. And also, it's just a very authentic movie. Like, if there ever was a true story about some guy who was an adult film star in Los Angeles and then he has to move back to his hometown in Texas to get it together, this is real. I mean, that's how this would be it. Like, the whole time you're watching it, you're very much convinced like this could really happen. Like, it's almost like you're watching the real life scenario in front of your eyes. So, the director, Sean Baker, I'm sure he did very good research to make this as accurate and authentic as possible. It's a terrific movie. I hope that you guys, if you haven't seen it, that you do go out and see it. And for those of you that have seen it, hopefully this was like kind of a deeper, more introspective look of the film, and hopefully you appreciate it even more and you want to go see it again. So anyways, those are my final thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the movie review, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.